Wow.
Welcome to another episode of Factually Opinionated. I am Professor Cinema, and with me, as always, is Mr. Slipcover himself, Bullet Blake. Today's topic is why X deserved better than Pearl. Bullet, why don't you start us off again?
Honestly, I was super excited when they announced Pearl, like right away. Like, obviously, we knew it was coming. And I don't know if we needed a prequel per se, because I think it kind of takes away from the whole like old lady losing her shit in her later years, which is what I would prefer as the backstory. Because she just
Right.
like not her being psychotic when she's younger and crazy as a like young adult. That part kind of takes away from the fact that she just went nuts because she wanted her youth, which is kind of the story I got from X. And X is a brilliant film, beginning to end. It's perfect. It was actually my number one film of 2022. So it was such a letdown when Pearl ended up being in the bottom 20 of the year for me. I just didn't like it. It wasn't good. The character that we already established, the old lady, like we knew they were going to do this. We expected it. We prepared ourselves. We thought, oh, that's cool to put a prequel out and give us like this story of how she came to be, but it doesn't work.
See, when we went and saw X the first time in the theater, I was kind of disappointed, only insofar as I thought the first half of the movie was way too long. It was I wasn't I should have, because Ty West is known for slow burns, but I didn't expect as slow of a burn as the first half of X was. But my second time watching it, while I was prepared for that slow burn, I took in a couple of extra things. I noticed a couple of things that I missed the first time, and it turned into like I raised my rating for it the second time because of it. Because I think I gave it a 3.5 to begin with, and I think my second time I gave it a 4. So yeah, the X was so good in so many ways.
So
And
good. It was so good.
yeah, and the tone and the story of this woman who lost her shit, I guess you could say.
She
And
lost her shit.
it it just it went so well with what was happening on screen, and the characters were enjoyable to watch. You love Jenna Ortega.
Oh, who doesn't love Jenna Ortega? Honestly, Jenna Ortega was the highlight for that movie. Every scene she's in, she's great. She has like a totally like a character that starts one way and then goes off and changes, and she does it so fucking beautifully. Like she's fantastic, and the entire cast is just
Yeah,
brilliant in
and
every way for this
honestly,
movie.
I was shocked with Brittany Snow's character, because I never thought I'd see her play a character like that ever.
Yeah, I never thought she'd do the nudity and the graphic sex scene that she did. Like
Yeah.
the amount of nudity in this movie. I mean, not Jenna Ortega, sadly, unfortunately, it is what it is. But otherwise, like the premise of this movie was great, and it gave you that old grindhouse feel, which I really, really like, and I really wish more movies would pump that type of genre. But I mean, like when it comes to Pearl, they changed everything. It doesn't have the grindhouse feel, obviously, because it's supposed to be a different period, which
Yep.
I get that.
And
But I
I
was so
understood
fucking
they went with that whole golden age film period. They switched the music up to that. They changed the way the cinematography was, and just overall lighting and blocking, and everything was switched to that other film style. And I loved all the different references, because I love some of the old films from the 20s and 30s, which follow a lot of the same techniques that they did here. But it was so boring.
yeah, it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit well, and people can say, well, that's art. It's whatever, and the artist and creator can and they were made in the same year, so it's like, wow, talk about a 180, because everything about X was perfect for me. I
Yeah.
loved the movie. I will watch it again and again, probably every year. I love the movie that much. I've watched it multiple times already. Pearl, I can't see myself ever revisiting, ever. It was so god awful fucking boring.
Well, it took so long for the film to develop Pearl's character for some reason. I don't know why. Because X developed like 5 characters in the same time span it took Pearl to develop one.
Yeah. Yeah, we got everyone's personality like perfectly squared off in the fucking movie for X. And then Pearl, it's like they're focused all on this one character, and she's not interesting to me. I mean, she's just dull and like just a needy, greedy, whatever. It's like, she was unlikable through and through.
Most definitely. And the problem is, in a lot of different ways, the Pearl character, they tried to push her as this sort of psychopath, because there's even her mother made references like, if people really knew you, they'd be terrified of you, and that was sort of this ongoing thing. And yet once she started killing and once she started doing her thing, her first kill was a complete accident, which I guess that follows psychopaths the way they go. Her second kill was completely out of character for psychopaths because they generally don't lose their temper. They're more sort of calm and collected when they do their killing, usually. Yeah. And then when it gets to the point where she kills her father, and they make this really weird thing about, they show her killing her father like supposedly out of love for some reason. It was really weird. Oh, by the way, there's massive spoilers coming.
Oh yeah, this is going to be a spoiler heavy episode. We've already done some. Sorry, just prepare yourselves.
Yeah, and then the only kill that fits with the profile of a psychopath is when she kills her sister-in-law. That's the only kill that fits the profile of the psychopath that they built.
But that's all we get to, is those 4 fucking kills in this entire fucking movie.
I mean, unless you count the Gatorade and the goose.
I don't get why it's the same like thing as Midsummer for me. It's like, this movie isn't good. It's not good. It's under the A24 moniker or whatever, and that just creates automatic fans for some of these movies. And I like some A24, as we discussed in the Midsummer episode. Yes. But this is definitely bottom tier A24.
Yeah, and what's concerning, and you and I were talking to somebody else who said this, there's a growing trend, and I don't want to say growing trend, but it's probably just that we're paying attention to it more. There seems to be a trend of people reviewing movies and giving positive reviews just because they see other positive reviews.
I mean, if you look on Letterboxd, that's this one to a T.
Yeah. And they'll bring it, like, there are good things that I can say about Pearl. It is a gorgeously shot movie.
Like, I mean, yeah, Ty West is fantastic.
Beautiful. And the colors are perfect. I could have done without the scarecrow humping scene, but that's neither here nor there. But the film is shot so well, and it is technically good. It is just not, the characterization isn't good.
It wasn't entertaining to me. Like, as far as art goes, as far as it being a movie, it's fantastic. It's a great project that's done well. The story itself is where I have the problem with it. I have a problem with the character. In the beginning, I was like, this isn't how I wanted this prequel to go. I didn't want a story of this old lady. I would rather not have the prequel at all. I'm really hyped for Maxine. I'm really stoked for that movie. I think that's going to be great, and it's going to be a better time period. It's going to be a closer follow-up to X itself, which is what I want. I want more of that X feel. This movie didn't deliver anything I wanted. Nothing. It detracted from X, in my opinion. I wanted it to be that story where the old lady is crazy. And I know that wouldn't work, obviously, with what I know they had this planned out. I know they did because they used Mia for both characters. They used her in the old lady makeup for X, and I knew they were going to do this, but it doesn't. It just takes away from X as a story for me.
Yeah, it lessens the character arc that we witness within X by watching this.
It wasn't,
because what X does a really good job of facing ageism and the mentality of growing older. It does really well with dealing with how somebody or showing how somebody has to deal with that, and how some people don't deal with that and just sort of have a mind break. Whereas now that we see that she's just batshit from the very get, it's just that arc is lessened. It doesn't matter at that point because she was never fully within her right mind to begin with.
Yeah, she was always batshit crazy if you go by X. And she, oh man, I just really, really hated Pearl. I hated it. And I wanted so much to love it. I wanted it to be just as good as X. And I mean, like, I've watched 120 plus A24 movies and I ranked them all, and X is number 1 for me. And Pearl landed somewhere at 116, I think. Like I think it's at 116. So comparatively, this movie failed miserably for me. It was just garbage.
Well, but with X, it was a very fun slasher style horror,
which helps because that's my kind of movie. I love the slasher genre.
But the problem with Pearl is that it's not even horror.
It's drama. Not.
It is a straight drama film with a couple of murders thrown in.
And oh man, if we're talking about being bored for a couple hours, that movie is one of the epitome of examples. I mean, like, it was just boring, and it took way too long, and there's too much fucking exposition for no reason in certain scenes where it's like, I don't care. Why are you like just panning for fucking ever on this fucking bullshit? I don't care. I didn't
like the scene where her sister-in-law convinces her to talk to her husband that's not there.
Yeah, what the fuck was that?
She just goes on and on and on, and I can see how they wanted to try and have it show that Pearl was definitely going down the deep end, and her sister-in-law began to get more and more terrified as it went through. But the weird thing is, instead of showing that the sister-in-law was beginning to get more and more terrified of Pearl through that whole exposition, all they did was focus on Pearl's face. They never cut to the sister-in-law to show her getting frightened,
which would have been a better reaction, actually.
Yes. And at that point, the turn of the character, I think, would have hit harder when, the sister-in-law went outside, started walking away, and then Pearl comes out, grabs the axe, and does her business. But without seeing the turn on the sister-in-law's face, Mitzi's face, I think her name is Mitzi, something like that. So. I don't care. I'm not watching it again.
No, never.
Without seeing that turn on her face, without having the visual storytelling that most people like to have, it falls flat. I don't know. I don't know why it's even there.
This movie, you don't need this movie. You can start with X, and they could have made a trilogy going from X. We didn't need a prequel. We didn't need to go back in time just for some shits and giggles to try and get some clarity on this character. I didn't want any clarity. She works better without the clarity, honestly. Yeah. The kills in X, brutal, awful. They're just what you want in a slasher movie. The kills in this, meh, bleh, boring. I didn't care. I didn't care about any of them.
I mean, and you get to see a lot of the actual kills within X, which makes them much more brutal.
Shout out to Jenna Ortega's death scene.
Oh,
bam.
But the kills in this, they seemed tame in comparison. And I don't know if it's just because of the way they shot it, because with that axe, she chopped her sister-in-law up, and you barely see any of it.
Yeah, like nothing.
Yeah. And then, I mean, I guess you could technically qualify that the pitchfork murder is brutal, but I have a hard time calling it brutal because she was so out of control character-wise. She didn't really know what she was doing at that point. She was just
losing it.
And it just, that took away the brutality of the moment, because it didn't feel like she was actually in control of herself, I guess you could say. It didn't feel like she had any actual agency over what she was doing.
I agree 1000%. It doesn't fit. No matter how you put it, it's not something I'd want to watch a double feature with. They're two totally different fucking like vibes. Both movies are like, I wouldn't want to watch them back to back because it's so different. Like,
yeah, it's when you got that grindhouse feel, you don't want to lead the evening with like a golden age feel.
Yeah,
you can't mesh those two films together in a one sit watch.
No, it just didn't work. It didn't work for me, and it proved, like, prequels, I feel like, should be able to have this sense that they come first. For me, if it's a prequel, it should work without the original movie. This movie, if you watch this and then you watched X, it would be like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah.
Like, how are these two movies even together?
Yeah, and the only way that you would really know is the fact that they're filmed in the same location, and it's Mia Goth. That's it.
Yeah, and Mia Goth gets praised like crazy for her portrayal, and it's like, if we're talking overrated, her portrayal in Pearl was overrated.
Well, that's just the thing. It was a woman losing her shit. There's plenty of movies of women losing their shit, of people. I mean, let's just talk a couple of actresses who've done it fantastically. Bette Midler, Meryl Streep. I mean, those are women that are fantastic with losing their shit, and it does well on camera. But this performance by Mia Goth was like, it was like Adam Sandler in Uncut Gems. I just didn't care. I just didn't care.
I hate Uncut Gems. That's a whole nother topic, man. That movie. But still, this movie, like I said, it didn't need to be made. We don't need it. You don't need it to enjoy X. You don't need it. You don't want it. You might think you want it. You might think, oh, more is better, but more is not always better.
Right. I mean, I don't really want the sequel trilogy for Star Wars.
Well, that's where you fall short, sir. Like, I don't want two of those films. I think two of those films were a total waste of time. The Force Awakens was absolute blah, because it was just a remake of the first one. So it was just unnecessary too. But at least The Last Jedi changed it up, but it still has a Star Wars feel to it. Unlike Pearl. Really. Yeah. Oh, what the fuck? I think we talk about Last Jedi on almost every stream. Maybe we should make a whole video on that.
We might have to. About us beating each other's heads in because one of us hates it and one of us loves it. One of us gives it a 0. The other one gives it a 25 out of 5.
It's good. It's worth it.
I mean, it's not, but
one of us is right. Me. We're totally getting off on a tangent here, so we'll just leave it at one of us is right. Me, and then we'll go back to our topic we were talking about.
But anyway, you don't want to watch Pearl. There's no reason to watch Pearl unless you have a fixation about Golden Age film, at which point watch it by itself. Don't link it to X because there's no reason to.
I love Ty West. Like
most Ty West movies I've really been into.
This is his worst movie for me. Honestly, it's worse. I would rank it below Cabin Fever 2.
I forgot about that one.
I can watch that one with more enjoyment than I can watch this one. And that's not even like his real vision. We know the studio like overstepped when he made that, but I still prefer. I'm more entertained by that garbage than this movie.
Actually, yeah.
He's done some almost all of his movies are fucking 5 stars. Almost all of them.
At this point, I would probably watch Cabin Fever 2 like 8 times in a row before I would watch X again, or not X, but Pearl again once.
Like X is so good, and his Western was good, and the fucking Innkeeper's great. I mean, he's got a bunch of 4-star or higher movies.
Yeah, he's a fantastic filmmaker, and it just felt like Pearl lost the plot. That's all. But, so you've heard it here, folks. You've heard it from the both of us. Don't watch Pearl. Just stay away. Keep yourself in a happy place.
You don't need it. You really don't need it at all.
But that's it for this topic. Go ahead, if you liked it, hit the like button and subscribe. Go ahead over to Bullet's channel and subscribe to his stuff. He does some fun stuff over there. And thanks for watching. Come back again.